For a while, there were rumors that a man in our neighborhood could grant wishes. My family lived on the north side, a street of tiny, near identical houses dwarfed by pine trees. Every yard had a chain-link fence and a dog. The people who lived near us were all right, not too nice, but not too mean either, and mostly looked the same, tired adults and bored kids. It didn't seem like the sort of place where anyone's wishes would come true. But the rumors persisted. I was a high school senior that year, and I heard the gossip. A girl in my class claimed to have wished for a kitten, and her parents got her one that same day. And a guy who went to school across town won a radio contest to see his favorite band. I didn't doubt these were real events that had occurred, but I was suspicious any one man was the cause. More likely, these kids' wishes had came true because their wants in life were, like mine, small and uncomplicated things that might very reasonably happen without supernatural intervention. But if I could have had 3 wishes that year, I would have wished for bigger breasts, my own car, and for my best friend Andrew to finally start liking me more as maybe more than a friend. Not so unrealistic, I thought at the time. But of course, that way it turned out, I only got 1 wish, and I managed to mess it up. It was Andrew's idea to go see the wish granter. We were hanging out at my house after school. "I know the address," Andrew says. "The dude literally lives just down the street from you." I agreed to Andrew's plan because I always agreed to whatever he suggested. We'd known each other since 1st grade, when we had both been in the gifted classes together. Andrew had since put his nerd days, as he called that time of our lives, behind him in favor of snowboarding and smoking pot. But he still hung out with me, which I took to mean our bond was a strong one. And maybe one day it could even be a romantic one. I couldn't say exactly when my crush on Andrew started, but it had grown each year of high school until I was totally smitten. His shaggy hair and his beautiful blue eyes, his easy confidence. To be liked by him was without a doubt my greatest desire. "What are you gonna wish for?" Andrew asked as we walked. I lied and said I didn't know. The wish granter did not live on my street, but as close as Andrew thought, we plodded east through the neighborhood until the houses gave way to bars and thrift stores and then back to houses again. "Here it is," Andrew said after a while. The home we stopped in front of was small and white with a dead lawn. There was a chain-linked fence, but no dog. "Now what?" I asked. I felt a flash of excitement like on Halloween, when we were kids and we dared one another to ring the doorbells of houses we thought would be haunted. But there was no daring in this time. Andrew only shrugged, opened the gate, and walked towards the front door, me trailing behind him, more like a pesky little sister than a potential girlfriend. The man who greeted us told us that he had been expecting us. This gave me the creeps, but Andrew seemed unfazed, so I stood my ground and resisted the urge to tug on his sleeve and whisper in his ear, maybe that we should go. Now, in hindsight, I know that only if I had only been brave enough to chicken out, everything would be different. The man told us his name was Hudson. He was tall, had a beard, and wore overalls with no shirt. He was young, older than us, but not so much, maybe 25. I had imagined an embeddled, wheezed old man, someone who spoke in limericks or riddles. Hudson spoke in loppy, stonery way of Andrew's snowboarder friend. He called us both bro. "Come on in, bros," he said, so we did. Hudson ushered us towards a futon in a sparsely furnished living room. I sat close to Andrew and took the opportunity to make physical eye contact. One of my knees pressed against his, but he didn't seem to notice. "Do you charge a fee?" Andrew asked. "I've got like $12. Hudson shrugged this question off, saying that we could work out the details later. He positioned himself in a beanbag chair across from us. He asked if we wanted beers, but we declined. Then he asked, "Okay, so, what's one of your greatest wishes for your life?" I was taken aback by this question's directness. So much so, I had to stifle a laugh. It all seemed incredibly odd and totally fake, but Hudson wasn't talking to me. He was talking to Andrew, looking purposefully at Andrew from the recesses of the beanbag chair. When Andrew answered, his voice was small and earnest, all his cool calm gone. "I want to go to the Olympics for snowboarding. I want to be an Olympic snowboarder. This was a real thing that Andrew wanted. I was surprised he shared it so readily with Hudson, this weirdo stranger with no shirt. But then it was my turn. Hudson turned his gaze towards me, and I saw in his eyes something that made me want to be honest too. I want true love, I said, with the perfect man for me. You got it, Hudson said. Something seemed to flash, either from Hudson's eyes or mouth or somewhere else in his face, and in that flash, I came to know that I was indeed about to receive my true love. I looked to Andrew, expecting him to be overcome, to embrace me, and maybe even make love to me right there on Hudson's scoozy couch. But he would just stare at me with his boring old dull blue eyes, and I realized I no longer wanted his affection anyways. I turned back to Hudson, and there it was, my true love. No longer a shirtless weirdo, but instead a wild man. God, his exposed biceps bulging like some sort of Viking warrior. He was what I wanted, and I knew he was mine. I walked home with Andrew that afternoon, but I walked back the next day on my own. Hudson was expecting me, of course. I'd meant to act cool, seem casual, but his face did its weird flashy thing again, and I felt compelled to be direct. I wondered if Hudson wasn't so much a genie as a human truth serum. Why did you make me fall in love with you? I asked. Because it's what you wanted, he said. This didn't seem correct, but I was so overwhelmed in my longing for him that I didn't argue. I wanted him now. So, didn't that mean that I'd always wanted him, even before I'd known him? Even when I thought I wanted Andrew? And I definitely did not want Andrew anymore. If I was certain of one thing, it was my love for Hudson. I felt it in every core of my being. He had made my wish come true. After that, I mostly hung around with Hudson at his house. I stopped going to school because he didn't go to school, and I didn't like to be apart from him. I helped him with his wish, granting business, answering the door when customers came by, telling them that we'd been expecting them, escorting them to the futon, etc. I even took my own initiative after a while and started making tea and baked goods to have on hand. I spruced up the living room so it was nicer for guests. Hudson hadn't taken Andrew's money, but he did take most other people's money when they came for wishes. And what he made was enough to support us both. He said that there was no need for me to get a job of my own, so I never did. My parents and my old friends from school were worried. When they came to visit, they leaned close, brows knitted with concern, and asked if I was okay. Was I happy? What had happened? I understood what they meant. I'm not an idiot. Older guy takes advantage of younger girl is a pretty common story, but it wasn't our story. I didn't think because I was okay and I was happy. Every time I looked into Hudson's face, I saw those same sparkling flashes from the first day I was in love. It was love, I decided. That brightness was love. It was in his eyes and all for me. I felt I could spend an eternity just looking into his face. Some nights that's all I did, and he would look back and seemed happy too. It was as Hudson had told me, it was exactly what I wanted. And ultimately, I got the other things I wanted too. Simply by virtue of age and maturity, my breasts got bigger. I'm 25 now, the age I assume Hudson was when I was 17. I'm no longer a skinny dweeby girl, but instead what I guess is called a full-figured woman. And I got a car. My parents bought me one shortly after. That would have been my high school graduation gift. I think in hopes that it would give me the freedom to do what I wanted in spite of Hudson. Even though I never really went much of anywhere. I still don't. There were a lot of things about those first days, months, and even years with Hudson that I don't remember though. Like, what did we talk about? We had almost nothing in common. Him being a genie or whatever, and me being in high school, honor student. But I suppose I didn't care. Stricken as I was, now I know what we talk about, and it's mostly boring. The same things as other couples who had fallen into a comfortable rut. We talk about our business and our home and our plans for the future. We're planning a trip to Yellowstone in the spring. I can remember these things because over time Hudson's brightness for me has faded. I mean this literally. The flash in his eyes were dull, and there were a little some days, but others nothing at all. The other days still something was behind his eyes, an image, like snakes that had no heads or tails writhing around back there behind his pupils. I don't care for that, and now that brightness has gone, I can't really say that I care for Hudson. or our life together all that much. But I'm 25 with no high school degree, no job skills. I have no close friends who are not also Hudson's friends. In short, I don't know how to be in the world without him. And so I stay, bright, flash, or no. I wonder what he thinks about this. If the loss of the brightness is a surprise to him too, or if it was his plan from the beginning, knowing that he'd only need it for so long, after that it wouldn't matter. Once, in the throes of those early months with Hudson, when his beautiful face and body and being were all that I could think about, I asked him if we should get married. He told me that we were already married. I didn't know what he meant by this. He told me that we were already bonded forever, and that was as good as marriage, better than marriage, in fact. Wasn't that what I meant by marriage anyways? Wasn't that what I wanted? I'd smiled then and said yes, 1,000 times yes.